Do you wish you could turn back the clock on aging? Anti-Factor Lipids is the breakthrough supplement that's scientifically proven to repair and renew your body's cells. Anti-Factor Lipids are identical to the phospholipids found in your cellular membranes. They've been shown to repair mitochondrial damage, a primary cause of biological aging. Anti-Factor has also been shown to reduce fatigue by more than 40%. And it's even been shown to significantly reduce a wide range of symptoms and improve the quality of life in patients with various conditions like chronic fatigue and those undergoing chemotherapy. I've been using Anti-Factor for years. I don't go a day without it. Anti-Factor Lipids comes in an easy-to-use powder in 2 convenient sizes. For more information and to order, just call 800-982-9158, 800-982-9158, or go to ntfactor.com. That's ntfactor.com for Anti-Factor Lipids powder. Welcome back to today's Intelligent Medicine podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ronald Hoffman. We're talking about what I consider one of the most authoritative books I've ever read about all the components that go into messing up our kids. The book is
adults.
And with implications for adults, as our guest Patricia Lemmer chimes in. The book is Total Load Theory: How a Holistic Life Can Save Your Child's Well-Being, and may well help to save your well-being. But I think children are particularly vulnerable because they're developing quickly, their brains are developing quickly. There's also an in utero component, and you address that about preconceptual planning because it's good to get a head start on this. Because a lot of problems can be inherited from mom, even dad, and from the placenta, from the influences during pregnancy. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that something interesting about this book, there is what's called an AI companion to this book, which is kind of an interesting way of doing it, kind of leveraging technology. Tell us about it, Patricia.
So I think most of your listeners are familiar with ChatGPT. You ask it a question and it searches the whole internet. My AI companion searches my intellectual property, which is this book and previous books, and my podcast, which is called The Autism Detective, that I have about 125 episodes. And so if you ask it a question such as, I have a picky eater, how am I ever going to get him to eat nutritious food? It goes think, and then it gives you a lot of information from my book, as well as it chooses 2 episodes from 125 and says, Dr. Hoffman hits on this subject in his interview, and would you like to listen? And then you hit the listen button and you hear what Dr. Hoffman has to say. And it says, well, at 7 minutes and 23 seconds, he talks about picky eating.
Wow.
And then you can hear it. And you can now ask the AI companion questions verbally in 8 languages.
Wow.
8 common languages. And it gets even better because as the software for the AI improves, it's going to be up to 70 different languages. And of course, I keep interviewing more people on my podcast. And so we get, it adds up to the AI companion, which you can access if you can show proof of purchase of the book.
Mm-hmm.
You can ask a couple of questions free before it asks you for proof of purchase.
Wow.
But it's quite remarkable, and you can go to AI.PatriciaLemmer,
AI.PatriciaLemmer, Lemmer, okay.
.com.
Fantastic.
And that's access the AI companion, which will just keep getting better and better as more languages are available and as more information becomes available. It's active.
So in 2055, will there be an AI avatar of Patricia
Amazing.
Lemmer in the cloud, and you'll be and
That's
with your
funny.
voice and your personage, so that you could in perpetuity people will be able to ask you questions
Right.
well beyond your expiration date.
Right. So my voice has now been cloned
Wow.
and registered
Okay,
so that nobody can pretend to be me
that is
without
important. That's
it
important
is
because you
without
could they could be
legal
doing like all kinds of product
ramifications.
endorsements with your voice, right?
Right. Right. And so you can access that. And I had to record 5 hours of my annoying voice to be able to
To train it,
allow
to
you,
train it, yeah, to train
right,
the
the
algorithm,
AI.
the AI.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That is super impressive.
Thank
Uh,
you.
so there's so many topics to touch upon, but I wanted to look. It's kind of the elephant in the room, or the third rail, and I think it's really the most controversial aspect of total load theory. And in fact, it's kind of what, frankly, gets RFK Jr. in trouble because he really believes that vaccines play a role in harming kids. And there's some people say there's nothing to see here, no problem. When we talk about vaccines, we reduce Americans' confidence in vaccines. We're going to see a return of all the terrible scourges in the past that we've conquered with these the wonderful progress we've made against infectious disease. So, where's the evidence in your mind that vaccines is a one or the other vaccine, or is it the total load of like, getting, 18, 20, 25 vaccinations by the time you're, 10 years old? How does this impact kids'
Well, it is the
health?
total load of vaccines. And
Yep.
RFK Jr. has already addressed that by reducing the number of vaccines that are permitted in the vaccine schedule. But the American Academy of Pediatrics is fighting back on
Yep.
that and trying to get back some of their cash cows so that people don't believe RFK Jr. But I
So,
have,
but to double click on that, uh, the it seems to me that one of the mainstays of pediatricians is that they are custodians of the vaccine program. And, I think pediatricians are well meaning. They're not just looking, to make more money, but in fact, they do make more money because it gets the people into the office. It gets the kids to go for their wellness checks because then they get their shot, which they need to get in order to go to school. And then there is also sometimes an incentive, literally paid, to the
right,
pediatricians to make sure that they vaccinate. Or alternatively, there's a negative incentive. If they don't vaccinate the kids, then they're penalized. They're penalized, whatever. Sometimes they're even, investigated by their state medical authorities. So, and I guess the American Academy of Pediatrics has some, shall we say, friendly ties to the pharmaceutical industry that makes
right,
vaccines?
right. So I've addressed the whole vaccine issue in a chapter
Okay.
called Vaccine Facts and Myths.
Mm-hmm.
And I take 10 of the generally accepted myths, which is that vaccines saved the world and that vaccinated kids are healthier than unvaccinated kids, neither of which is true, and show you the research and the truth behind those very widely held beliefs. And so it's very clear that vaccinated kids have more allergies, more colds, more ear infections, more tummy aches than vaccinated kids. And that in today's generally clean world where people are generally eating pretty good food, the vaccinated kids fall down when compared to the unvaccinated kids health wise. And so that's a really, really important chapter for people to read and understand that this is, it's all about money. This is about money. And years ago, I wrote an article called Do You Really Need a Pediatrician? Because as you pointed out, the pediatrician's job right now during wellness checks
Mhm.
is to
Give
vaccinate
give
you.
kids shots. Yeah.
And it used to be, before we could get information at a click of a mouse, that we needed our pediatrician to educate us, to look at what our baby growing well? Was he big enough for a child his age, or did we need to supplement him? And today's internet, although we know that it's not all truthful information, is available so easily that people don't need Dr. Spock like I had as my only source for my now 50-year-old daughter. And so it's a questionable as what role should the pediatrician play? And I think this is going to be redefined in the next couple of years. Pediatricians love children, or they wouldn't have gone into
Right.
that field.
They're very
They,
idealistic. In fact, it's actually one of the hardest branches of medicine to practice. It's also one of the least remunerative branches of medicine to practice.
right,
It's very hard because not only do you have the patient in front of you, but got the patient's anxious mom and dad in front of you, maybe
right,
grandparents, and they're so anxious and scared, and
right.
it's really challenging. So, but I wanted to say, so what's the alternative? If we are suspicious of vaccines and we think that it may not be one vaccine. It may be that there's just so many vaccines that the
Right.
cumulative effect.
That's
So,
such a great question, because we all hate the term anti-vaxxer,
right.
and we're not anti-vaxxers, and there are definitely a place for vaccines.
Thank
But
you.
to give a pregnant woman vaccines is an experiment. To give infants a vaccine in the first 24 hours of life is an experiment. And to give a baby 6 or 7 pathogens when you do an MMR and a DPT and
Mhm.
polio, that's seven
But
pathogens
that's just
in
for
one
convenience
day.
because they can't
It's
really depend.
insane.
They can't depend on parents to come back, 5 or 6 times. So they figure like,
Right.
let's give it all in once. And by the way, one of the ways to develop a vaccine, you can develop individual vaccines, but you get a new patent on a combo. That's kind of an easy way to get a new patent and have a new
Right.
product,
Right.
as you know. So, all right. So what's a parent to do? Now, here's one of
So
the
you
things that,
asked what's the alternative?
yeah.
The alternative is to eat healthy food,
Hmm.
to get enough sleep, to
Get
check
sunshine.
your vitamin D
Right.
levels, and make sure that it's at least in double digits and not even single teens and 20s.
Right.
You want your doctor to tell you your vitamin D level is at least 40. And doctors don't typically test a vitamin D level.
Not only that, Patricia, there's actually an effort underway to undertake cost containment because they believe that the vitamin D test is useless and is costing extra dollars to the healthcare system. That to me is amazing because the same doctors who would say you need to get your cholesterol checked every year that you have your annual doctor's visit, they want to do cost containment on vitamin D testing because they think it's just a burden to the medical system.
And the research is showing that the vitamin D level was the single best determinant of how serious somebody COVID
Yeah.
response was. And that those people who died of COVID had the lowest levels of vitamin D. So if you're going to take anything, any one supplement, that's the one to have tested, and have it tested prior to supplementing it so you have a baseline.
Okay, folks, at this point, let's pause and allow one of our sponsors an opportunity to share an important message with you. So here it goes. Listen up.
Kids don't just bring home homework, they bring home germs. And those germs don't just stay with them, they spread to the whole household. That's why Clear Nasal Spray was created by a practicing physician to give parents and grandparents peace of mind. You may not think about it, but your nose is filtering out a semi-truck full of air every single day. Clear isn't just another spray. It creates an additional layer of protection in your nose that blocks bacteria and viruses before they can even take hold. Yes, even that virus. Supporting your body's defenses right where germs first try to enter. Clear is a hygiene product recommended for daily use, drug-free, non-drowsy, and safe for all ages. Just a quick spray in the morning and evening helps you cleanse your nose. Don't just hope for protection, create it. Get Clear Nasal Spray, your daily defense. Clear Nasal Spray is available at retailers nationwide and online. Check out xlear.com for our special offers. That's xlear.com.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting our sponsors. They, of course, are what make Intelligent Medicine a continuing free resource to you. And now back to the author of Total Load Theory, Patricia Lemmer. Coming back to the vaccine issue, it seems to me that there may be a subset of kids who are particularly vulnerable to the adverse effects of vaccines. And I really wish that we had the science and the medical knowledge to, at an early stage, identify which kids might be more. Okay, explain that. Explain
I
that.
show you those risk factors.
Okay.
There's a chart of risk factors in the book.
Okay.
Of a child who has allergies, who has eczema, who has had bronchitis, who has had several rounds of antibiotics. Those are all risk factors for having a vaccine reaction in the future. Mm-hmm. And our bodies are so wise. They give us a warning. The first warning of a vaccine reaction, which everyone should know, is that you get a fever. You get a red spot at the point of injection, and you get a hard lump. And that warning is telling you that this baby, this person, this adult is not capable of overcoming this. It is a reaction which shouldn't happen.
Are there some vaccines that we could more or less forego, except in special circumstances? It seems to me that, it's a pretty good idea to vaccinate people against certain killer diseases. And I'm not sure whether measles constitutes that. I mean, I had measles. You had measles as a child. We both survived. We did okay. But, a very, very small percentage, probably, a fraction of 1% of kids have long-term residual problems, even rarely can die from measles. So, can we pick and choose among the vaccines?
Well, I don't think you, as a parent, should be picking and choosing vaccines. And that it's a collaborative relationship with your healthcare professional. And it's sometimes about timing. And you can ask your doctor to run a test called a titer, TITER, which tells you, are you immune to this disease
already? Yeah.
Whatever it is. Have you raised enough antibodies against it? And there's all kinds of arguments against generally running titers. And again, that is not cost effective. Doctors don't want to run titers, but it's something you should consider asking your doctor about before you give a booster.
Okay. All right. So look, it's a very complex argument, but it seems to me that we are right to try to align ourselves with some of the more healthy countries, advanced countries of the world who have a less aggressive vaccine schedule for kids. I mean, I have a family member who's from Belgium, and he says that, and his brother is a doctor, and he says in Belgium they decided not to give the chickenpox vaccine to kids, but it is available, but they don't make it mandatory. See, that's another aspect of it, is that mandatory versus, like, do I want fluoride in my drinking water? No, I don't want fluoride in my drinking water. But if I don't want to prevent people from having the right to access fluoridated toothpaste or to go to a dentist and have a fluoride treatment if they believe that it is going to prevent dental decay. But I don't necessarily want it in the drinking water. That's maybe, but vaccines are such a third rail kind of issue, is that we're talking about herd immunity. We want everybody to be protected. There were some vaccine successes. I mean, I think among them is that smallpox was eradicated. I think that's a success. I think polio, we can argue that there's environmental factors that have reduced our susceptibility to polio. But, surely polio was a scourge of, when I was a kid and perhaps when you were a kid as well. And we seem to have gotten on top of that with a successful vaccine campaign. But, some of these other things. Anyway, we can go on and on about vaccines, and I think that's a controversial element of a total load theory, but worthy of consideration. Let's talk a little bit about mold, because mold as a factor that affects kids.
Mold is the elephant in the middle of the room, and mold is ubiquitous. It's anybody who's ever had a leak, and you may not even know that you've had a leak, that your roof is slowly leaking after a hurricane, or that your toilet has a slow leak, or that your refrigerator and the pan is full of mold. Mold is the most unidentified factor in many of these neurodevelopmental disorders. And anybody who has a family member with one of these disorders must evaluate both their environment for mold. Even if you're not positive that you've had a leak, it must be evaluated because mold lurks. It's behind the walls, it's under the carpet, it's in the flooring, and it interferes with every one of our organ systems. So you can bring in somebody to evaluate your environment, and you can also evaluate whether your body is eliminating mold metabolites in your urine. And there's tests, lab tests, that can evaluate the mold and because the mold itself defecates and puts that into your poop into your urine so let's can be evaluated.
Let's distinguish, because a lot of people say, I don't think I have a mold problem because nobody's wheezing, nobody's got, burning eyes or nasal congestion or cough. So that's what mold causes. But actually, there's another element to that, is the neurotoxicity of mold. Explain that. What's going on there?
Well, that's where the mold gives off its own toxins. The spores, looking for a nice, cozy, warm place in your lungs or in your environment, is going to give off its own neurotoxins, which are going to affect you. And everybody's different. It could be anxiety. It could be distress of any kind. It could be affecting your sleep or your digestion. And so we have to know if you have any of these mental health symptoms, we have to look at mold.
Yeah, I've seen, some of my patients have had mold exposure, and, we had to really be a detective to find that out. And one in particular strikes me, and he's like the healthiest guy in the world. He's a champion athlete, a young guy. He looks like an Adonis, skis double black diamond, ski runs. And then he bought himself a fixer-upper house.
What?
And he tried to fix it up, and he lived there while he was fixing it up. And finally, he had to get rid of it because we discovered that it was infested with particular, Staphybotrys, which is the black mold. There are other types of mold which can be not as deadly, but his health was completely devastated by that. It took him months to recover. Fortunately, he's a very robust young male. And, just by getting away and detoxifying for a while, he was able to overcome it. But it is very profound, as you say. You mentioned vision in one of your chapters. I wear glasses, and the glasses correct my vision, and I'm fine. As a little kid, I couldn't see the blackboard, but that didn't.
So your glasses correct your eyesight,
right?
Not your vision. And in English, we use vision and eyesight synonymously, but they do not mean the same thing. If you say Steve Jobs had vision, you're not talking about the prescription in his glasses. You're talking about the interaction between the two eyes and the brain. So vision is conceptual, it's organizational, it's cognitive. It's not the same thing as the clarity of eyesight that your glasses are correcting. And so I have its own chapter on vision because people don't understand that the way you get from point A to point B in your car is not because you have a GPS,
Hmm.
but because your brain has a vision in its mind's eye that knows that you go to the
It has
stoplight
a
and
map.
turn
We
left
can
and
map things.
automatically go
Right.
home.
Yeah. Interesting. And some people are notoriously bad at navigating. They're just bad at I mean, they
Right.
say that it's kind of a male-female thing. There may be something particular about the developmental with the
It's
female
about
brain.
vision.
And it has to do with, I don't know, maybe men are better, the ones who went out of the village and went hunting, blah, 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 and from an evolutionary standpoint, there's something about that. And the other thing about men, they never ask for directions. It
Yep.
is,
We
I,
know that.
you know, I am often scolded for not asking for directions. I just drive on. Okay, so vision, but so when you say, so how do you correct impairments in vision? You
I'm
can put
so
glasses
glad
on.
you asked.
Yeah.
I became, in the 1980s, I became a bridge between the field of developmental optometry
Oh,
and the public.
wow.
And so behavioral optometrists or developmental optometrists do something called vision therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And we can learn to use our vision efficiently in the same way we learn to talk, we learn to read, we learn to a foreign language.
Mm-hmm.
And so vision therapy is a way to correct this if it's problematic. So the first step is to find a developmental or behavioral optometrist
They must be few and
who,
far between, right?
no, they're not.
Oh,
They're
okay.
everywhere.
Okay.
And if you go to covd.org for College of Optometrists and Vision Development, that's now changed its name,
Oh.
and but that's still their website.
Mm-hmm.
They can help you find somebody, and if you can't find someone there, you say, find me a developmental optometrist near me, and I can almost always find you somebody who do this evaluation.
How could that manifest? How might that be the undetected cause of a child's
It's so
issues with
important,
learning
Ron.
and
It is.
comprehension?
So suppose you're anxious and you look at the vision and the child is seeing double.
Okay.
And many times kids don't know that you shouldn't have two heads.
Wow.
And I once asked a child, do you ever see two of anything? He says, all the time. And his
Wow.
mother nearly fell out of the chair. She says, you never told me that. And he
Hmm.
said, you never asked.
Hmm.
And so anxiety is one of the top symptoms of poor binocularity.
Mm-hmm.
The eyes might be working individually, and
Yeah.
then you develop something called amblyopia,
Yeah.
and that's a lazy eye
Right.
because the brain turns one eye off
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't get double vision. But there are magical ways to measure how the eyes are working as a team
Mm-hmm.
and whether they're sending consistent messages like this
Right.
or like this. And it's especially important. The younger you can do it, the more the easier it is to remediate it. If somebody has a strabismus, which is a fancy word for a turned eye, the eye
Crossed
can be
eyes.
turned
Yeah.
one way, up, down, left, or right, and that is medically by an ophthalmologist. It is generally corrected with lenses or with even with surgery sometimes. That doesn't assure that the two eyes are a team and that they're sending coherent, efficient messages to the brain. So vision is like mold, is often missed as an underlying root cause, especially in anxiety and reading and writing issues.
I think that's just an example of how comprehensive your book is because people don't think of these types of things as part of a total
Well,
load
thank you. Yep.
understanding
Yeah.
of, what are all the components that could, we think of environmental toxins, we think of, poor diet, we think of, socioeconomic stresses,
Right.
family issues that can cause a kid to have impaired performance. So that's all in the book, and it's an amazing book. It's like, 600 pages, fully referenced. It's
But
encyclopedic.
don't let it scare you.
I know, because we could just use the AI version of it right now.
You could, or you can use the wonderful index in it.
Yeah.
It has a terrific index. And nobody's going to sit down and read this book like a novel.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to look up your favorite subjects and then skip around like it's really a reference book. And it's a reference book throughout the lifespan. This book is not just about children. As you pointed out when you were reading the chapter titles, this book is about what to do when a child turns into an adult, and how to look forward and plan for the day when mommy and daddy aren't going to be there any longer, and you might have to set up a special needs trust or a
Mm-hmm.
guardianship,
Yep.
or think about where your adult special needs person is going to live and be happy and be employed, and what kind of things can be done for him. One of the things that happened in this book was, right as I was finishing the last book, the idea of working with adults and some younger children who don't speak came up. And we've discovered that just because they don't speak doesn't mean they have nothing to say.
Hmm.
And we're now using letter boards, which look like stencils,
Mm-hmm.
where a child points and spells. And this is called spelling to communicate. And if you haven't seen it, the movie Spellers,
Oh.
which is free online, is quite a remarkable documentary which talks about some of these young adults who were locked in because of whole body apraxia,
Mm-hmm.
which prevented them from actually forming the words.
Wow.
And they are now in communication, and RFK Jr. has put them on a special autism committee so that they can help us understand what it's like to be locked into a body that doesn't work so well.
It's similar to brain trauma
It is.
victims or stroke sufferers who may have, it's not as if they can think, they just are locked in and they just don't have a means of expression. So, yeah.
So the motto has become assume competence. And we want those people to understand that we are assuming they have something to say, even though their mouth is not able to speak. And so this spellers movement is quite amazing.
So it's a wonderful book. And your website
Thank you.
is it patricialemmer.com?
It is. And if you put the AI dot in front of it, you access
The AI.
the companion.
Wow, what a concept. You're putting a bee in my bonnet about my corpus of work over the many years that I've been broadcasting.
I can put you in touch with the man who did it for me. He's in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
and he's an Egyptian living in Australia, and he had an autistic son. And his son, he attributes his son's healing to my book, Outsmarting Autism. Unbeknownst to me, he followed me
Wow.
through that book, doing all the stuff that I recommended, and healed his son. And when I came out with a new book after the Outsmarting went out of print, he offered me this AI companion as a gift to thank me for healing his son.
Wow, that's really, really an impressive
It's a great
story.
story, and
Yeah.
he's a great guy.
Yeah. Well, we're leveraging our technology in all kinds of new and
Right.
unexpected ways, and I think that's to the good. So thank you very much for joining us once again. We have to not wait another 5 or 6 years before we have you back on.
Well, thank you.
I'm sure there'll be some exciting developments in this field. We just barely touched the surface. The book is encyclopedic. It's entitled Total Load Theory, and indeed it is total. It looks at the totality of how a holistic life can save your child's well-being. So
And it's available on Kindle now, and soon it'll be available in an audio version, which with the AI component we're going to be able to do in various languages.
Yeah, Kindle has the advantage you can hunt down different, just do searches within the text and find what you're looking for. So good stuff. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me again. I'm thrilled to be able to talk to you, and let's stay in touch, and hopefully you whet your listeners' appetites enough that they'll go to their library and ask them to carry the book or to purchase it in a local bookstore, the bookstores are coming back, or online. So I'm grateful in any way that they access this book. That's my goal, is to help people.
Yeah, it's a tremendous legacy for you, so congratulations.
Thank you so much, Ron.
I'm Dr. Ronald Hoffman, and this is the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I want to thank you for listening to the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast app, and get new episodes automatically downloaded every weekday. And please give us a rating and review. It truly helps new people discover intelligent medicine. The Intelligent Medicine Podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice, and no doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have, and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Finally, please visit drhoffman.com and discover everything intelligent medicine has to offer, including frequently updated, unbiased health news and fully vetted product and supplement recommendations. You're listening to Intelligent Medicine, a resource to help you take control of your health. We offer a balanced, objective analysis of all your health, wellness, and aging options, both conventional and alternative. Now you can take your engagement to the next level by joining FullScript. FullScript is my online dispensing platform that only offers curated, professional-grade supplement brands that I know and trust. Never counterfeit or expired, always stored and shipped correctly. Just go to drhoffmanstore.com for more information and to start your free FullScript account. Buying through FullScript offers fast, free shipping, optional refill reminders, a mobile-friendly site. It's safe, secure, and HIPAA compliant, and offers world-class support. Just go to drhoffmanstore.com. You'll get access to the supplements and features you need to help you achieve your wellness goals, including my custom targeted protocols that combine the products I recommend to address specific needs: heart health, immune support, and much more. It's all at drhoffmanstore.com. drhoffmanstore.com.